I am Evelyn Ofori-Karagu. I am an innovation delivery manager at Digital Catapult, which is UK's leading technology innovation agency, and I manage a project called CreativeXR, which gives the Martelli team have participated in, and that program is about supporting creative content creators bring their immersive projects to life, and it's done in collaboration with Arts Council England. So yeah, it's a 3-month accelerator program where we support 20 companies, and we give them 20K each to create a prototype, which they then present at a showcase, and we put our wonderful teams in front of potential funders and commissioners to take their projects forward and bring their amazing creations to life. I don't know if do you want to introduce yourselves?
Oh, hi, I'm Bruno Martelli. This is with me is Ruth Gibson.
Hi.
And we are artists sometimes known as Gibson Martelli. Yeah, what else can I say? We've got a show on at Gazzelli Art House Centre through the Headset 5 right now, and we're showing one of our VR pieces, Expanded Fields, that we made with our lovely collaborators, Jenny Roach and Mel Mercia. And so that's a physical show. You can go to the gallery, and I think you have to book a slot, and then you can go in and check out this, our work, Expanded Fields, and a whole bunch of other pieces by, I think there's 10 other artists. Yeah, and for CreativeXR, we are working on another project which is called Dazzle with our also wonderful collaborators, Poop Forte, and also a host of other artists.
Amazing. So it would be really cool to hear more about the expanded project, because I know a bit about so good to hear what that project is like, and you developing the development process, getting it off the ground.
It was it began as an really sort of quite push, jolt and rebound, and 3 verbs that 3 dancers took on board to make material. And the idea that Jenny had was to actually excavate memories and influences and experiences from the dancers in the moment of them making the movement material. So it's really quite hard for the dancers in some ways, and Jenny used micro-phenomenological interview training to really excavate and get really to the core of the initiation and of the movement and what it meant like in the moment of the making. So in a way, Bruno and I were involved in that project to make a VR work that could almost articulate that to an audience as if they were actually in the experience of the dance. So the interesting part about it was that we did it at the exhibition at Limerick Art Gallery, and it was interjected with performances as well as video installations and the VR. The VR had no controllers apart from you wore a backpack and you were free to walk around, so that you really could enter into the proximity of the dance. Mel's sound was incorporated into that experience. But of course we did live performances as well in conjunction with that, with Henry Montez and Kevin Cochliard and Ursula Robb, some brilliant dancers. Yeah, and we were hoping to do that again at the Dublin Festival in April, and that got postponed, live collision. And again in November, of course, and we've not been able to do that, so that we're currently thinking about a way in which we can show the video works and of course the VR in Mozilla Hubs or some other way, because of course we can't travel and we can't do exhibition pieces because of the pandemic. So we've had to really change the way that we've been thinking about how to do that exhibition. But that's the exhibition. You see the VR part of that, the exhibition at Gazzelli, and it's the UK premiere. So yeah.
it's a really simple VR piece. It's it doesn't have a beginning, middle, or end. It's just sort of continuous environment. You put on the PC backpack and the VR headset, and then you just move around the space. And depending on where you are in the space, the environment transitions to different environments. And there are kind of 3 modes that it has. And we were trying to experiment with a kind of this inner feeling. And so it's not really about so much about representation. And so the kind of the sort of landscape is like it's just kind of like a foggy, in some parts it's like a sunset, or it's just like sort of atmosphere. And then the characters were trying to move away from typical humanoid representations of kind of game-like characters or anything like that. So some of them are using one of the characters is using the sort of spline curves generated from the points that come out of the motion capture that we did of the 3 performers. So it's a kind of continuous motion capture performance that you can kind of move around in.
The process was really quite taxing on the dancers, because not only were they performing this rigorous work, they actually had to uncover what they were feeling in the moment of the making, what they were seeing, what they were hearing, what they, how the proximity of their limb to each other and things like that. So they were writing consistently after making the work in the process. And then, of course, that material was used as a kind of dialogue in the sound. And Bruno and I, some of the drawings and some of the way in which the dancers were expressing themselves with their drawings and with their artwork, we tried to also not necessarily emulate, but like Bruno said, that it was a kind of defocusing to sort of focus, because there were video pieces also in the exhibition and that aren't in the exhibition at Gazzelli, and those video pieces, most of it was done in camera, not much was done in post-production deliberately to show the working process and to sort of reveal that to the audience. And some of the sections were filmed out of focus, and we tried to do that in VR. So it was so the piece that you see has some aspects that are sort of ethereal in a way. Yeah.
It sounds really oblique, but actually it's really sort of simple to get if you actually look at it. It's kind of, this is the kind of thing, it's harder to explain than it is to actually just look at it.
Are we making any sense? Are we making any sense?
We put on our own Instagram, we put like a little video, and you can kind of see what it looks and sounds like.
Okay. I need to.
Yeah. So maybe we should have done that instead of talking about it.
It's good commentary. You can like cut this and then add it to that. So yeah, good commentary on that. Oh, yes. Do you have? I suppose we've been given some guide questions by Gazzelli Art House, and you've spoken to me about a bit about expanded fields, but I suppose, yeah, is there anything that you want to get out of me?
Oh, I can ask you some questions if you want.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you believe that XR experiences, I actually wrote this, do you believe that XR experiences are the future of understanding the piece on a deeper level? Oh no, that's your question for me. Sorry. Okay. I'm going to ask a different question. Scratch that.
No. I think. Well, I guess we can both share our opinion.
Okay.
On that, I suppose. I think is it the future of understanding a piece on a deeper level? I think yes. It's part of the future. I don't think it's like a sole thing, but I know that when I first started putting on headsets and being transported to different worlds or viewing pieces in VR, I think that journey into it felt there's a visceral reaction to stories told through VR. And I think it is really powerful to use that technology in that way. And obviously, like as a new user, can be a bit disconcerting, but I felt quite settled in, quite. It didn't like the newness of it, and maybe disorientation that one might feel like left pretty quickly, because I was just like in awe of like, oh, wow, look at the possibilities here. And I think that excitement and that awe and wonder is really adds to the experience, or whatever it is that you're doing.
Do you think it's originally, because I mean, I remember first experiences of VR, and it's very wow, and for a lot of people it's just wow, and at that point it feels like you could show them anything. You could show them the spinning cube and they'll be like, that's amazing, it's a spinning cube, it's so good. And then do you think you get beyond that point to a point where actually you start to have like you have a proper artistic sort of engagement in it, and the novelty goes away, and actually you're just having the experience itself without being conscious of the mediation of the technology? And how long do you think that sort of takes? And do you think you get that? I mean, this is a question I just ask people like a lot anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you're? I mean, but the short version is: do you think, are you like over the novelty bit, and you're into the deeper level, or are you still at the wow phase?
I think it depends on the experience. Like, I think with there was one piece, I can't remember the name of it, but it was a piece where you were on a space station, and so the feeling of like floating, and having that experience of like what an astronaut would feel. That I feel like that's quite key to that deeper connection with what is going on around you. I think and then there's another piece that again, I'm really bad at remembering names. There was another piece that was telling the story of a woman who had whose family members had suffered with alcoholism, and it was like it was like you were sitting in a you were sitting, it was like an AA meeting. You were listening to this girl tell the story of what her mother had gone through, and I found that really powerful because I felt as though I was being spoken to directly, and hearing the difficult stories that this woman had experienced, and how it had impacted her family and school and all of that. So I think it depends on the experience, but I definitely think with pieces where you're having to interact maybe with the world and characters in narrative pieces, I think the for me, it's like, oh, I get away from the wow, and I'm just like, okay, so what am I dealing with like in front of me? I've moved past that.
That's really interesting, because I think as a maker of work, what we are considering more and more is why we're feeling the way we're feeling, and how. So, beyond the novelty. So it's, actually asking, why are we physically responding in these ways to this material that is seen in a different way, in a different realm, and how are creative people in this area, in working with this medium, how are they managing to to trigger these things in us rather than just the limitations of the tech. Because what you're talking about is like storytelling and really quite extreme.
Well, it's like the Chris
extreme
Milkian empathy machine,
exactly.
isn't it? Ideas.
Really extreme examples, which are, and you know, I think exactly, and it's Jordan Wollstone and so on with the sort of theatre of violence and all these things. So for me, I suppose as a person making work, that's what I'm looking at more and more now. I think is to do with why is this happening to us, and why is this giving us physical responses, and why is it giving us vertigo when actually we know that we're in VR and we're actually standing on our own 2 feet.
I remember doing a space station one. I've got like a bunch of space station ones, and I think you have to fix up the space station or something. And there's some crazy yaw.
You have to clean.
And when when it's doing yaw, that's
right.
really like it's really
yeah. You have to climb. I remember
that's
that.
really bad.
You have to climb around.
But then you wanted to all the time to hand on. It's like the old living in the trees ancestors, and you just want to climb the tree.
Yeah.
But it gives you the safety. It's really brilliant. So I've got another question.
We're interviewing Evelyn now.
We are now. We've basically subverted the whole thing.
You can ask us. You can ask us.
Okay, sorry. Yes, we should take.
You can ask us a question because we haven't got that long. So.
No, we don't. Time really flies. I think what about maybe like 15 minutes or so. I suppose a question that I have. You alluded to a bit. With the challenges that COVID has presented, is there like, I suppose, what have been the biggest challenges for you in trying to pivot or adjust your experiences to
our creative experiences or our
The big, it's been really painful because Gazelli, they normally have an absolutely great opening for entry to headset, and so we've really missed out on that. We totally missed out on that one. We had another show where we're showing some prints in South London. Missed out on that opening. They also have Sim Smith Gallery. They also have nice openings. Missed out on that. Really sad. And
I think that's
been a big challenge. Is no openings.
I mean, one of the bonuses is we showed expanded fields at Gazelli, and we're really, our collaboration with our Irish collaborators, that's really exciting. But actually what we should have been showing was a live performance that was going to be a parade from the Royal Academy to the gallery with dancers, with the beautiful costumes from Alexa Pullman and Bina Roth and our lovely dancers Harry and Hannah. And what ended up happening is I ended up rehearsing in Green Park, socially distancing. We still kept believing that we might be able to pull it off and have this fantastic performance, sort of a kind of tableau vivant in a way, but kind of, to sort of encourage people to come to the gallery and also to see the work that we're making with CreativeXR, which has, audiences can enter a virtual world with avatars, but then avatars that they can touch for real. And so these were the dancers, and it's such a shame because it could have all happened in London Fashion Week as well.
And the weather was nice.
Yeah. So I suppose that's, if you think about that, and then all the different Irish live collision and all these other events that we've had to postpone. But having said that, I think we've possibly been more busy than ever. Because we've actually been adapting and doing, we had a show on at Ars Electronica, which was incredible, with 120 countries all joining and sharing an installation work in Mozilla Hubs, and that was amazing. So on the limitations have given opportunities, but a lot of the, only now, sorry, I've taken over from Bruno, but only now have I, only now have I sort of working out methodologies for working in the way that I would normally with dancers in the studio, because I've not been able to do that. So now I'm really asking other choreographers, how and other other artists, how they're actually managing to collaborate, because quite a lot of stuff can be intuitive, and it's not just on Zoom, it's not just flat screen. And I mean, I know I'm saying the same things that everybody else is saying, but actually there's some really interesting things that people are doing to combat that, like audio classes, and all sorts of different things, rather than just actually really stressing the visual, the thinking around how to cope, really. But we're privileged, in many ways, compared to some. So I understand that too.
Yeah, we were lucky because we've got we've got a live work studio space, so we didn't like being locked down. Just means you're just in the studio all the time.
Which
so
means
others
you work all the time.
couldn't get to their studios, and that's a big pain. But then of course we can't get the dancers to come around to do any rehearsals with them. Or do any motion capture with them. So
we went to the park. Which was actually great,
Yeah, I think
really
there's some. I mean, it's a bit weird actually, because I feel so the weather during COVID, especially over the summer, was actually pretty decent. So, I think in terms of like the companies that we're working with as well on this year's CreativeXR, location-based experiences have had to do a lot of like thinking around how they translate what it is they've done like into completely virtual space, and that's something that they're still working through, or having to leave, wherever there's a window, to leave the country and perhaps do something somewhere else where the opportunity is. I think that's happening a lot. So it's a difficult one where like those experiences have to be ready to kind of do things like on a whim, where you see a chance or a window to.
Absolutely, and I think that there's a kind of evolution that happens through that when you're working on a project. You don't really stay in the hiatus or the limbo, even though that might, venues and organisations might be all locked down and can't give you any answers. But actually, as people making the work, you're still, and actually producers producing, you're still evolving. The projects are still evolving. It'd be a great project, to get actually all the CreativeXR people together to find out how they've been managing. I'd be really interested in that, and also maybe to sort of tap into what's happening with other mediums as well. I think we've had some questions from Instagram.
Yes, I think, okay, so I see from Tuckface74, what is more important with virtual experiences, accessibility or complexity? Interesting.
Is he asking you, Evelyn, or us?
He's asking the people.
He's asking the people.
Yeah. I actually think there's a sliding scale really between the accessibility and it's not. And when we started working with computer game engines, we were like some years ago, we were making these kind of immersive environments, not necessarily using VR, but just using making computer game spaces, and we did have a lot of thought about whether we wanted to actually let people download them on some platform like Steam. And then we actually made a very conscious decision that we were going to stay in the gallery space and show them in galleries, because that meant that we would be able to control the hardware that the piece was running on. And so we'd actually be in control of the experience and actually make an installation with it, so that we would always sort of keep the quality high, because we were worried that if people downloaded it on their computer at home, if they wanted to, they might have a rubbish computer and it wouldn't be the same thing. But because of things that are happening now, obviously, accessibility has become extremely important. And so I guess there's a weird split where some, for example, festivals like the London Film Festival, they're doing a thing where they have a physical installation. So you can go and you can see some VR works on 10 different headsets, and you sort of book a slot for it, which is like what Gazelle is doing. You book a slot and you go and you get an hour to check out all these works. But then at the same time, they're doing a
yeah.
sort of platform download. So you can do like a Steam download, and you can download for the duration of the festival, you can download all the stuff and check it out at home. Because I guess one of the major advantages of immersive media that's completely immersive like VR is that it's actually completely immersive. So it's not like it's the frame is gone, basically. You're inside the frame.
You know, it's a kind of want and need thing too. And actually the accessibility sort of also sort of dovetails with, you know, whether actually people have got headsets, whether you know, and whether they've got the, you know, the means to actually see these things. And that's what's quite nice about doing things in a public art space. I mean, I think the BFI have done, you know, the BFI have done quite a good job with this, making a virtual museum, almost a virtual South Bank for the project, where we're actually showing our CreativeXR prototype Dazzle Solo. Actually, when is it? October 17th to 18th. So,
19th.
you know, sort of, and, you know, I still think that they're actually going to be able to have people going there, with, obviously, with, you know, just as Gazelle with, you know, all the conventions and all the theatre of hygiene that is happening. Yeah. It's another question. Oh.
It's that same question.
It's the same question.
It's hanging around.
I thought there was another one. There is another one that...
Does VR need the wow moment to be different and more affecting than other mediums? Well, this is the thing. I think VR just by itself, it is a wow moment, because especially if people haven't tried it ever before, you put it on and it's like, wow, you're actually in this thing. So it already has that.
Wow moments are always great, aren't they? Like
no,
surprises,
not necessarily.
Bad surprises, not good surprises.
Whereas, but the thing is, the medium is growing up, and you can see that there were at the beginning, there are a lot of experiences which are basically effectively jump scares. You know, you'd go into a room, you'd go into a virtual room and something jump out, or you'd have to balance on a high place, and it was a kind of just to induce a feeling of vertigo. And now things are actually starting to become a lot more subtle. And also there's this whole area of the kind of documentary kind of experience, the empathy machine kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think,
which is a little bit like your examples, Evelyn.
Yeah, and I think like let me just bring the question up again. Yeah, I think in terms of the wow moment, I think depending on how like interactive the experience is, like if there's having you know, because sometimes if you're using it for the first time, some people don't feel quite as comfortable in it. But if there's a moment for like a educational orientation for the user in the experience, I think then that will elevate it and make people feel safe and even curious, you know, to delve further into the world. So I think that's like an important piece, and maybe even slightly links with the accessibility. Especially that when you're doing things in public spaces, is, you know, whether it be you're doing something in a park or a museum, or, you know, having other people like just watching, seeing something going on, seeing others participate in the experience is... I think there's, I agree. I think there's like, the space of VR for me is very weirdly, not necessarily nurturing, but it's sort of a caring space that actually allows you to take risks or allows you to have these moments. It's an oddly safe place, I think, in a way, to experience something that may be more extreme. So it depends on what you term wow, I think, as well, you know.
I remember this project, which is called Tap Phobos, which was basically an interactive being buried alive simulator. And so you went into a cardboard coffin and you put on a VR headset and you were being buried alive. And that was so horrific. And so we were trying it out. And we're like, oh, it's fine, the burying alive part thing. Okay, we're just actually in this coffin and it's this part is fine.
It was so intense.
But then this freaking ginormous spider starts crawling up your body.
Yeah,
It's really too much.
That was a great early project.
That was horrific.
Yeah. But I think, like, for me, what I thought
Can be scary for others.
Yes, can be exactly scary for others. It's a good point that's just come up.
But the situation, it's forced a lot of people who were really taking the long view about technology to force them to sort of get engaged with it. And so lots of people are sort of now able to Zoom their parents and get their parents on like FaceTime or Skype or whatever, when before the parents would be like, no, just call me up. And now they're like, and that it's made a lot of people very au fait with technology, and it's really with this kind of stuff. And so people are more
made some of us want to switch off altogether.
It's a shortcut. I mean, it's shortcutted a lot, like a long learning curve or a long acceptance has now been squashed down into a short period, that's been very helpful.
I guess we've been adapting really quickly to
people adapting fast because they have to.
Super quick.
Some people.
Yeah.
I think for me, like one of the projects that we had called Fatherland, where it was quite interactive. So you had audience members put in a headset and you listening to the story of the creators and his father's experience with dementia, and there was a duality in that you had an audience member put on a headset and see a story happening there, but then the rest of the audience would see that story going on the headset in front of them. And for me, that was really exciting because that really like made me curious. And I was like, okay, I'm seeing two things happen at the same time. And I could see somebody experience it and they were like safe in that. And that was something that made me think, oh, okay, I can do that, because I'm literally seeing what's going on, like everything.
I like that. Do you think that meant that? Sorry, Bruno.
Well, I was going to say, I really like seeing. I sometimes like seeing in work. We try and do it is to expose the means of production so that you are aware and you can see that an illusion is happening, but at the same time you're also aware that an illusion is happening. So your brain allows you to buy into the illusion and go, okay, this is actually happening. At the same time, you go, oh, actually, this is being produced by whatever it is over there, and that there's a kind of like a really nice knife edge, and you can fluctuate on it. And so that's something that we're trying to tease out in our work. And so it's interesting, the spectator view, and also seeing how the illusion's being produced. So the person, and you can see the person in VR and you can see what they see
it's also,
at the same time, rather than just seeing one or the other.
And it's kind of, you sort of, I don't know, maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but you enter,
much tech.
you enter the
interaction. It's really out.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. You sort of enter the performance in a way. So do you think it's more live when you can see that, Evelyn, when you're able to see both? Did you feel like it was more live, that situation, or was it just the fact that you could?
When you say more live,
well, not live, well, just live. Did you feel more in the moment? Did you feel in the moment when you had that experience, being able to see both aspects of it? It's just a question.
Yeah. I felt, what did I feel? It was, there was just like a lot of like intrigue, and I suppose that voyeurism, like you're seeing this audience member who's got the headset on, you're like, ooh, like what are you feeling right now? Because there was an actor who was doing their piece, and you're connecting with that performance, and then for me, it got me curious as to what the audience member was feeling. That was really powerful for me, because that was one of the experiences that really like stood out to me, and I was like, and I still think about it.
Right, great.
Today,
so it's sort of resonated with you. Nice. Yeah.
That's very good. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because so in a VR piece, you are obviously a regular VR piece. It's like a pre-recorded game world, but actually what's happening is it's being created moment by moment by the computer, depending on what you're actually looking at. So you're literally, the world is being, even though it's already recorded and it's already been developed, it's it's in many cases, it's just you're experiencing it in a weird live way because you're controlling your own experience. And it does have this weird edge where it's not quite the same as watching. This is what elevates VR beyond sort of like flat media, if you like. So, I mean, I think, yeah. And I'm not quite sure how I feel about that, but I think it's a very interesting area to explore.
Yeah, there's a question. There's somebody's written here, but we all need more live interaction as much as tech, i.e., loneliness. I think this is really interesting because I think there's a lot of areas now where people are role playing and where attention is given directly to the camera. There are some VR pieces that are like this, but there's also lots of just videos online. And I think that idea of loneliness and just the way that you could interact with someone that you don't necessarily know, but actually those ideas of attention and someone giving you attention or those kinds of things are really, really super interesting for me. I suppose it comes back to the why and how that I talked about earlier. There's another question as well there.
There's a question from Shap Music. Do you think there should be a limit on the duration one experiences VR XR for? Oh, yes. It should be like a day as a minimum.
It can be habit forming. It can become a drug. It can become addictive.
I think it depends on the thing. I think people find it hard to because it can be quite intense. I think people find it hard to quite concentrate for a long period of time looking at something. Also, as well, you've got something stuck on your face as well. It's not quite natural, is it?
No.
So, no. But it depends. We've seen people just look at something from lots of audiences. When people are allowed to come round to the studio, what we used to do is everybody that came around to the studio, we would just chuck them into some VR and just test it out. And we've done like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of demos here of all kinds of different stuff we've been making. And some people they just can't even stand it. Some people had to go and lie down and have a little bit of a lie down because they got vertigo. And then one time somebody stayed in and they were in, and then we ended up going and doing something else because they just wouldn't come out. And then they were there for hours and hours, and what they were trying to do was fly to the edge of the known universe in this virtual environment that we'd made. We didn't realize there actually was one. There's this kind of universe in a sphere, and they've gone to a gajillion light years, and they were really happy. So I think it's kind of up to the user really. If your eyeballs can handle it.
The last piece of work we showed entered through the headset, but the previous year was called Drawing Levels. And Bruno made lots and lots of environments of me drawing with my feet in VR with Quill, and
it's not as bad as it sounds.
And it sounds
it's not smelly.
It's not. No, I know. It's like putting the
she had the socks on. That's right.
Yeah, putting the controllers on my feet, and he made all these worlds out of the drawings, and I got really into it. I had to go because I was making in that space. I actually really had to go in every day and make a series of drawings every day for quite some time. Whereas we've got a really dear friend of ours, only said the other day, I love you, but I really don't like your work. Well, it's not that I don't like your work, but it makes me feel ill. So I think, some people have really different reactions.
Bad experiences with, I remember Go home, and I got my brother to try it on, and one of the first things he said, it was like, whoa, he had it on, it was like, whoa, this is dangerous. I could spend the whole day here, this is a bit, I could see his body, he almost whoa, I could be here the whole day. So that was an interesting but I do think there's, I guess maybe going back to the accessibility thing though, but I think that the opportunity with mixed reality though is that and creative immersive projects is that you're giving access to arts to people who may not be able to access them as well. So for those who may feel lonely, being in I mean, it's really difficult because you have to really think about the ethics of it.
Absolutely,
But,
absolutely.
yeah, there's an opportunity for those who deal with loneliness or anxiety, maybe.
And there's
Like a softer
yeah,
way into being more
the
social.
well-being, yeah, the well-being
Yeah.
aspect of it's really amazing. And Mel Slater's done some fantastic role play work. He's based in Barcelona and worked with a colleague of ours, Marco Gillies at Goldsmiths, and Mel is amazing. And I think Mel has actually been a mentor or at at Digital Catapult. Yeah, yeah. I'm aware that we've got about 2 minutes, I think. Yeah, left. So is there any question from Insta feed or anything? Any more questions? Because I think one more question. This gives me.
Yeah, I guess a good one to end on, I suppose. What is the best VR experience that all of you have experienced?
It's going to be Shah, isn't it? Shah Davis.
Oh yeah, I think one of the best ones I've done is Osmose. It's the Shah Davis work, and it was made in the 1990s. And I went. It came over here, and it was in an exhibition at the South Bank, and I went run down to see it. You had to get a slot, and it was with a really early VR headset, and it's running on a Silicon Graphics computer, and it's and that was like one of my first VR experiences, and that was really amazing. That's a great piece.
Okay. And my favourite VR experience, I think, is
the one we made at Caselli now.
No, is the little robot dog and the stick.
Oh, she means the when you the Steam demo levels, when you install the Steam for the first time.
Still my
with
favourite.
the HTC Vive, there's like a thing where you go to Photogrammetry Iceland, and there's a robot dog, and you can throw a stick for it, and it runs and gets the stick and brings it back.
And you can just do it forever, and it's ridiculously habitual and dull and great.
And what's yours?
What's yours, Evelyn?
I think well, as I mentioned, Dazzle. It's a brilliant one. I think one that and I mentioned Fatherland, but I think one experience that did stay with me is why is the name left me? It's called Common. Basically, it was an experience about the Aylesbury estate in Elephant.
Oh wow! Yeah, amazing.
Castle.
Yeah.
And I suppose that moved me because I'm from South London and I've gone past that estate very often. And the questions around like gentrification and things is very it's very close to me, and being able to be going in that state and being able to interact slightly with the building, that I found that quite moving. Some of the documentaries.
That resonates with me too, but it's like
Common grounds. Thank you, Touchbase.
Yeah, thanks. That resonates with me because when Brina and I started working together, we lived in that area of town and we made a work together. I won't say what it is, but we did. Remember? That was all based around the Elephant and Castle. Interesting.
I just thought it was a really beautiful piece because that estate has been used a lot and in pieces where it's like, negative like stereotypes and stuff. So just getting the voices and stories of those who have lived there.
Amazing.
And getting getting perspective and that bird's eye view as well. I found that really refreshing. So
you have to hand over back to the studio, right?
Yes. So thank you, everyone, and
thank you. Yeah, thanks everyone.
But some good questions. Yes, I think I need to save this IGTV, so I don't want to disappear and then delete this video. But thanks for
Might
everyone.
do. Thanks.
That
Bye.
enjoyed.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.